So I'd be happy to take any questions and from you in the audience, or I don't quite know how questions work through the,
They'll just sing out.
They'll just sing out? Okay, yeah, well, I'd also be happy to hear from either of the remote locations, so. Yes, please.
How were you and Miri supported through the whole process of the hospital?
Well, we have quite a bit of family in the Puget Sound area who are helping us. Also, our church was very supportive. We have one family in our church who had a twin preemie born at 31 weeks, 15 years ago, earlier, with hypoplastic left heart syndrome, which required 3 operations to basically reroute the plumbing of the heart. And she survived and is now 18 years old. And so they became our mentors for what special needs parenting was about, and also life in the NICU. And then we ended up taking about 3 different churches' freezers over for the purpose of storing breast milk, which is one of the experiences of having a child in the NICU. Is the breast milk is very important because it reduces the chances of necrotizing enterocolitis hugely. And the mother is going to outpace the baby for breast milk production for at least 6 or 7 months. And so that breast milk needs to be stored. So we bought a chest freezer of our own. We took over my parents' freezer. We took over 2 churches' freezers. And we're able to keep it all there.
In Yakima?
Yes, in Yakima.
In Yakima? It wasn't really a question, but I was just going to say I thought it was kind of ironic. I got an article from my grandma this morning about the doctor that helped save my life in the NICU here in Yakima and how he was retiring. And I was born at 24 weeks, premature, and I lived, and that was 26 years ago. And it's, I think, one of the most humbling experiences for me is to meet people through my grandparents normally that say, you know, I prayed for you when you were a baby. And just to meet me 26 years later is just an amazing thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, thank you for telling me that. I remember when Gabriel was 9 or 10 months old, I had him at a church service at a neighboring church to ours, and was just carrying him around. And when I mentioned that my son's name was Gabriel and that he'd been in the hospital for a little while, the priest at that other church just, oh, that Gabriel, because he'd been on the prayer list all up and down the West Coast. And, and the fact that, there's just so many people who knew his story and that are, contact me when we run into each other. That it's really impressive. And I do sometimes wonder if I'm, by doing all this kind of promotional work, if I'm going to give him some kind of a complex later, Harry Potter, the boy who lived, but I kind of think he, in some regards, he owes it to the other preemies out there that can be saved if they can get a chance. Yes, please.
I was just wondering, how much he understands about his medical past and what had happened, and how much you guys chose to share with him, and where he is with that.
Well, he's about to turn 4 years old, which means on the preemie scale, he's 3.5. On my computer, the screensaver mode used to go through a slideshow of all the pictures that are in the pictures folder. And so sometimes a NICU picture would come through, and he just points at it and he says, be heal, baby, which at that time was how he pronounced Gabriel, his name. He now pronounces it correctly. But, so he's the only person, and I've showed him that video of him in the NICU. He's the only person in the world who can watch that video without getting upset. Of what's in that video, and so at some point he's going to figure out what all this means, and we haven't quite figured out how to approach that. Probably just sort of like the whole facts of life thing. You just wait for the question and you explain it as truthfully as you can. Yes.
You mentioned that you have to go to the dietitian like every couple months. How many visits, like in a given month, might he have?
Well, right now, the gastroenterologist is the only doctor he's regularly seeing with a regular set of appointments. If he gets pneumonia, which he's gotten a couple of times, you have to get on that really aggressively because of his lungs. So we've had we had one ER visit with that. But generally, office visit can resolve most things. But before that, we were. We also have to see a nephrologist once a year. So it's much nicer than it used to be. Yes, please.
Does he go on play dates?
Yeah, I mean, he's in preschool, so he plays there, and he's in daycare too. But yeah, he goes on play dates with other kids from church and other kids in his school program. And he's not at an age where the kids yet know how to point at something and laugh at it, like a gastric tube. So it hasn't become an issue. The fact that he does things differently. When he gets to kindergarten and first grade, we're really hoping to get him done with the gastric tube by that point. He rides one thing that just came up a couple of days ago that I was actually a little worried about was he rides a bus to, or rides the bus comes directly to our driveway, which is very nice, to pick him up and take him to the developmental preschool in our school district. And he was telling me about his friends on the bus, listing them off, which is kind of cool that he can do that now. But he was telling us about Grant, a person on his bus, and how Grant, he said, well, is Grant your friend? He says, no, he doesn't talk. And I thought, oh, I sure hope he's being nice to Grant, because when he says somebody's not his friend, that usually means that there's some conflict going on. And I asked the driver, about this, and she says, yes, Grant's on this bus, and that's right, he doesn't talk at all. And so I'm just kind of, it's good that he's getting this exposure to people with special needs from such a very early age, but it's one of those things we're going to have to navigate step by step to make sure that, A, he's being treated well, and B, he's treating other people well. Yes. I would love to have one more child. My wife is rather against it. One of the there is quite a bit of risk. I think it's something like if you've had a preemie, you've got a 1 in 4 chance of the next one being a preemie as well. I mean, hopefully not at 22 weeks. If you can make it to 28 weeks or 32 weeks, that increases survival chances way up. One of the title of the book that we've is Please Cry, A Father's View from Outside the Incubator. One of the earlier titles we were pondering was, what was it? Darth Baby and the Hope for an Easier Sequel. But that got nixed as too silly. But looking for prevention methods was something we've been working on, and the sad thing we've discovered is that there aren't any good prevention methods for preterm labor. Something like 55 or 60% of preterm births are considered spontaneous, meaning that there is no known cause to them that can be identified. I mean, the others are things like, and then the others are things like, you'd obviously want to avoid, like cocaine, heroin, cigarette smoke, domestic violence, things like that would that could be a contributing factor. And so, there's a total of, I looked through this Institutes of Medicine big report on prevention methods that are out there, and there's a total of one that seems to be working, which is for women who have previously had a preterm birth and cervical funneling is detected in the second trimester, to use progesterone supplements to help prolong the pregnancy. And that has a little bit of an effect that's been observed, but that's kind of it. They've also, there's other things you can do, like a cerclage or a stitch on the cervix, which can help, sort of, and bed rest, which does not actually help, but it's still prescribed all the time, which is another interesting ethical question. And yeah, so it's kind of a scary thing for us of what would happen if we had a second child. So, up in front.
How did you feel or react when the doctor said that their heart wasn't going to be in it while resuscitating the child?
Well, it was kind of upsetting, well, on the one hand, I was trying to hang on to the reality of what was going on. Yes, there was extreme danger, and that's probably, that's why he said it. So I couldn't. So I'm like, okay, I have to accept this dose of reality that he's just given me. But at the same time, it's like, come on, man, get on the team. Give us some support here. He was an older doctor, comes from an era when, just 20 or 30 years ago, 28 weeks was considered the upper limit for when a child could be resuscitated. And that was and at that point, that's when surfactant became available, artificial and animal surfactants to allow a baby's lungs to inflate and deflate correctly without collapsing completely after each breath, like you have the wind knocked out of you. And so he probably comes from a time when he's seen lots of babies much older than Gabriel live for a short time and then take a wrong turn. And so we had to try to work with this guy as much as we could. One of the things about emergency care is that you don't really get to choose your doctor, and the doctor doesn't get to choose a patient. So you're tossed into this together, and you've got to make the best of it that you can. The battery died. Bummer. Okay, well, we'll just let it be off, and thanks for telling me. Okay. Yes, please.
So, can't remember if you said it or not, but being in the hospital that long can strain a marriage and your finances. So, how did that work out with you and your wife and all of that?
Well, for us, it was stressful, certainly, being in the hospital. We had private insurance, which covered that we bought when we lived here, called Assurus, which for whatever weird reason is not available over on the west side of the mountains, but they let us keep it. And so that covered the $1 million bill from the NICU, thankfully. And also in Washington State, any infant that's in the NICU that's hospitalized for longer than 30 days after birth qualifies for state Medicaid, and that's without any income requirements. So there is a safety net there. We had help from other family members. Miri had 2 part-time jobs, and I had 2 part-time jobs when this happened. She was sort of able to keep one, and then the other she ended up letting go as we're getting closer to discharge. My 2 part-time jobs were in downtown Seattle in walking distance of the hospital, so I was able to get there. For us, the stress on our marriage was actually not that hard, I guess. It gave us a sense of purpose. It also was very significant that Miri had a background in veterinary medicine, working as a veterinary assistant and as a zookeeper. So she was better able to explain the complicated medical terminology to me. So that gave her a purpose, a sense of purpose in explaining that to me. And then she's also something of an introvert, which is probably the reason I'm standing here speaking to you and not her. So she would have me be the one that would call the NICU every night at 11 p.m. to get the update, because she just couldn't bear the thought of having to talk to the nurse one more time that day. So I guess that's the best explanation I could come up with.
You also had a good support system through your church and family and friends.
We did. That family we talked about with the 15-year-old with hypoplastic left heart syndrome, they were the point person. So all the helpful people who either wanted to either talk to us or see the baby or whatever, they had to go through those two, and those two actually had a worse time of it in the hospital than we had, so they were the ideal people to do it. So they coordinated all the food cooking and the wrapping up sandwiches and sending them to us, and so it was a very efficient kind of system of support that we got from them.
Could you go through a typical day while he was in hospital and sort of in a precarious position? Like, what did you do?
Well, we each visited at least once a day. Generally, I was able to take a bus from the Federal Way, the suburb about 15 miles to the south. I was able to take a bus from the apartment directly to Swedish, which was a big deal, and I could get there before the 7 a.m. shift change and have 45 minutes with Gabriel, and do one of his cares, change his diaper, take his temperature, that sort of thing, and then leave at shift change to go to work. And then Miri would generally show up around 10 or 11 in the morning and stay for 4 to 5 hours, and then I would come back up to the hospital at the end of work and see her and Gabriel for about 40 or 45 minutes, and then we'd probably leave at shift change at 7 p.m., or we might go out to, if Gabriel had some ongoing issue or we were waiting to talk to a doctor, we'd go out to one of the little restaurants around Swedish that we got tired of really quickly, and then come back and deal with that. Yes?
During the entire ordeal, do you feel like you ever ran into a nurse or that a nurse that did what they were supposed to do, no judgment, no anything like that, and if they were good, what were the things that we could take?
Well, at that NICU, boy, the nurses seemed to have something like 20 and 25 years of experience behind them, mostly. So yeah, they were all very experienced, and they'd seen it all before, and so they were very steady, and I felt like they did do the right thing, and also the neonatologists would come on only for 2 or 3 days at a time, and then they'd be gone, and you wouldn't see them for 3 weeks, and so there'd be a new neonatologist on each time, which at first was a little annoying, but then we came to appreciate it because of just the number of different pairs of eyes you want looking at your child when you have someone who's in intensive care. I know his primary nurse, a woman named Josephine, spotted that he was looking what she called a little noodly, just not looking as enthusiastic about life. And she took his temperature and found a fever, and then they did a whole bunch of tests right then, and that's how his infection was discovered. And so she was very vigilant with that. I guess. The advice I could give is to be as truthful as you can, while also being as unjudgmental as you can of the family, both of the child's prognosis and of the family's decisions, because we did have a couple of nurses who, when we were in antepartum, the unit before birth, who were saying, well, I know why you're doing this, in kind of a condescending tone, to say, well, you're going to hang on to try this, make this last try at saving the pregnancy, even though your chances are so poor. And so, we kind of felt a little put off by that. We advised them during that ethics committee meeting to take some acting classes and learn to hide it if you think you've got a parent or a family that's stuck on some impossible task that they're trying. Don't talk them down from their attempt to make it work. Yes. We do. He goes, Gabriel has follow-up appointments at Swedish Hospital once in a while, and so every time we go there, we stop by the NICU front desk. We did that just 2 months ago, and there, just sitting at the desk on break, chatting with somebody else, was one of the women who had, I can't remember if it was a nurse or a respiratory technician, but she had been there at the resuscitation and said, "Oh, I know this family," and then one of the doctors came out to see him, who had treated him during his time, and so yeah, we see them, several times a year, and we have not seen the doctor who resuscitated Gabriel since then, the one that made that recommendation. We saw him once later in when Gabriel was 3 months old. We saw him once. He had Gabriel as a patient, and he didn't recognize us at first just because the baby had changed so much. And so he saw me and sort of looked at me and just told me that my son was an ideal citizen, minding his own business, gaining weight, things like that. And then when Miri came in, he says, "Oh, I think I intubated this baby." Because he remembered Miri. I didn't remember me. And, we were thinking well, should we bring it up, this question of whether he was right or what, and we didn't, just because well, gosh, is he going to like it if we get into some sort of arm wrestling mess, thing with him here in the NICU, and so, we didn't. My assumption is that he's heard through the ethics committee that we had this opinion about the care, but he hasn't chosen to reach out to us, and we don't really plan to push it any further than that, just because, as I said before, patients don't get to choose their doctors in emergencies, and doctors don't get to choose their patients. If we'd had the luxury of time, we certainly would have gone with somebody else, but we didn't. So you've got to make the best of a bad situation. Yes.
This is kind of about the question with the hospital, but did you choose Swedish Medical Facility for a specific reason to go to, or was it just the closest nearby at the time?
Well, we were going to Swedish Issaquah, which is a brand new hospital built 15 miles east of Seattle, which was sort of near to where we were living, but then we moved, and then it wasn't really that close, and we were looking for a new hospital. And then we went in, Miri was having cramping, but she said, well, I've got an OB appointment tomorrow, so I might as well wait until then. And then we went to that OB appointment, and the ultrasound tech says, oh my God, you're dilated 3 centimeters. And that got us put into a car. It said, go get in your car right now and go to Swedish First Hill. And Swedish First Hill, I believe, has the busiest NICU in the state. And so it's, and studies have shown that larger is actually better when it comes to NICUs, especially with very low birth weight infants. So yeah, we sort of ended up, we didn't really choose Swedish, but once we were there, we just stayed there. It occurs to me I haven't actually been looking at the screens to see if anybody in Tri-Cities or Yakima has raised a hand. So are there questions up there? Nope. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you again so much.
Oh, thank you.